Now, were you did I remember correctly, were you a sidearm guy starting out your freshman year or not?
No, I was always.
You're always over the top? Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't throw that
I
hard.
got, well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Your velo made a huge jump because I want to talk about that 18 year, obviously. I mean, you made 21 appearances. I mean, your freshman stats are pretty good. 3-0, 2.33. I remember watching you the first time I watched you. I think this was 18, was you pitched against Clemson, I believe, in Greenville.
I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you threw really well. And that was like the first time I saw you. You're like, okay, you got something. Obviously, you were a bullpen guy at that point. I feel like you were like at that point, at least, you were kind of like a seventh inning guy. And you went back and forth between being a starter and back into the bullpen and stuff like that. But your first full year actually getting on the mound, you'd been practicing all that good stuff. But I mean, talk about it, growing up a Carolina fan, that rush of emotions the first time you got to pitch at Founders Park in front of, a capacity crowd, whatever. Like, what was that like for you, again, growing up a Gamecock?
No, yeah, it was awesome. I think my first outing was against VMI in that 17 season. And I came in, and I don't remember what inning. I'm not that guy that remembers every single detail. But I came in, I just remember the view, it was just different. I don't know what about it was different. I had the jersey on, I was there. I finally accomplished that goal. And I was like, all right, I got to get to work. This is where I make a legacy. So, I mean, it was just crazy. It was a dream come true. I loved every bit of it, honestly.
Well, what was the biggest challenge for you? Because like you said, that first year, I mean, your velo made a big jump. So what was your game personally? How did your game evolve overall at South Carolina? Because later in your career, obviously going back to this past season, I mean, you were a guy, had some good velo. I mean, low 90s. And that, like you said, that first year, I think you evolved and obviously matured as a pitcher. So how do you feel like when you assess your own game, the way you grew at South Carolina, and how much did your mentality change? I mean, obviously just getting experience is going to help, but you obviously learn about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, you add different pitches, you work on different pitches, locations, whatever. But how do you feel like you improved most and changed most over your career at South Carolina as a pitcher?
Yeah. So I would say probably from my freshman year to this current year, one of the biggest differences from my freshman year would be, I don't know, I didn't really feel as confident in myself at sometimes. I would always feel a little bit nervous or kind of oh, I'm going to mess up. If I do this, if I do that, whatever happens, I would put a lot of pressure on myself. And then I realized probably a year ago or this last fall or even during the spring, I had to be confident in myself no matter what was going to happen. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give it everything I got. No matter what happens, I'm going to win no matter what. So
people don't get the mind game that it is.
Yeah.
Baseball is unlike any other sport, and it literally is mental warfare. I mean, and if you don't, like you're saying, if you don't trust yourself, believe in yourself, throw every pitch with conviction, you hear coaches talk about that. I mean, the game will eat you alive. It will eat you alive.
Got to be confident. Can't let the bad memories stick around too long. That's why I try to forget. I have short-term memory about
you have to
outings.
As a pitcher. Have to.
Got to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess another thing is just focusing on what you're good at and making sure you're good at that, and don't be just kind of mediocre at everything. So I had a decent changeup, so I would throw the changeup every day in practice, make sure it was feeling good. Just focusing on what you're good at and just putting up numbers, honestly.
For sure.
Doing what you can do.
Now, that 18 season, again, Kingston's first year, really, really interesting because it started off not very great. Lose the series to Clemson yet again. Things are off to a rocky start. And I ask everybody about this that's played with you on that team, that PC game. We lose that midweek, and it's like a come to Jesus moment with Kingston. He takes whatever away from you guys, the players' lounge or whatever. And all just from there, it's just boom, it clicks. Sweep LSU. You guys go on a run all the way to the Super Regionals in Fayetteville, which I know had to be a crazy experience. But just talk about that season as a whole. I mean, again, you're kind of just getting your feet wet, but also going through this. What do you think clicked for that team? What was it that just all of a sudden just came together?
I wish I had an answer for you. I really don't know.
Right. Because there were really good players on that team as well. I mean, you look at that pitching staff, really good, really good pitching staff.
Yeah. So I think it was just honestly just Kingston kind of, hate to say it like this, but getting in our ass a little bit. We just needed that push. Basically, we were just kind of not soft, but we weren't as together. And then after that, I would say obviously the players' lounge was taken away, and then just that I don't know, it was probably a couple days or a week long of realizing, oh wow, we're terrible right now. We got to do something. We got to get better. And then we all just kind of meshed, and then it just kind of took off.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely clicked. I'll ask you again that first year, did you have like a welcome to the SEC moment, whether it was like in practice or in a game, like where you're like it clicked, you're like, this is not high school anymore. Like, this is the real deal.
I think playing that first SEC team, realizing like, oh wow, this is I don't remember who we played. Like I said, I don't remember everything, but playing like the Vanderbilts and the Floridas, Georgias, like they're big schools, but like we're also a big school, and like you got to realize that you're there, like you're at the D1 SEC level, and like I don't know, you just got to turn the switch on. Honestly,
I can imagine seeing Emerson Hancock throw 100 from the dugout. I remember I forget who I was talking to, and it was recently too, but they were talking about that, and it was just like, I mean, you're seeing him pump 100. It's like you want to believe you're going to win every game, but like you see that, and then the guy coming out of the bullpen throwing 98, and it's just like
unbelievable.
Okay, might be a long night.
I thought that game, just from that performance that he had, that he was going to go 1-1, like no matter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like he was sitting 97 in the 7th.
Yeah,
like that's like
incredible.
MLB numbers.
Yeah.
So just watching that game and watching him pitch, I was like, wow, this is as close to professional baseball as it gets.
Yeah.
So
for sure. So again, that 18 season, we'll go back to it though. Just talk about again, you're a young buck, but that run through the regional and again, turning it around after the way it started and, you know, going on that run, Kingston's first year, you go to the Supers and you talk about those big time SEC teams and you go to Fayetteville, which is a big time environment. Like their fans are crazy. We all saw it on TV, but I mean, that had to be a really cool experience for you, especially rebounding from the first year where it was just so, you know, down and out coaching change to, I mean, you're a game away from Omaha, which is obviously at Carolina. That's the ultimate destination. Just talk about that experience, that going through that.
Well, let's see. That year was crazy. So going to Arkansas was actually really fun.
Right.
We went out
there.
Their
fans make it a blast. That's for sure.
We played them 7 times that year. 3 during the season, 1 during the SEC tournament, and then 3 obviously in the Super Regional. And they were probably the best team in the nation that year. Unfortunately, they didn't win it, but they were as hot as we were. They were really good. There was 12,000 people there when we were in the regional or Super Regional, and that was easily one of the best environments I've ever played in, just because of the amount of people and how loud it was. And it was just crazy.
No, for sure. I mean, watching on TV, you see their fan base, and it's just like. And I've asked guys, heck, that played during the College World Series teams, and they're saying like that's probably the rowdiest environment college baseball wise I've been in. Like their fans are brutal. They will eat you.
They were letting
alive.
us have it during BP. It was so funny though. This guy wanted to like trade. He had like a straw hat,
right?
And he wanted to trade us for one of our hats.
Right.
I was like, I can't do that obviously because it's our game hat.
Yeah.
They would just say like a bunch of stupid stuff. It was honestly really funny. Not like it wasn't bad, but it was just funny.
Right.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.